excited to be here with Miss Cathy Hughes because, I'm a big fan and I've watched you from afar for so long. And I was thinking about all of the firsts that we have with Miss Cathy Hughes. I mean, you were the first African-American woman to chair a publicly held corporation. You're the first woman to own a radio station that was ranked #1. And I'm sure at the time you weren't even thinking about this when you started Radio One. You are the founder and chairperson of Radio One, which is now Urban One. And so we'll talk about a lot of different things today.
But it's interesting, and I'm sure you experienced this. Sometimes you learn that you're the first when you're being presented an award or introduced somewhere. And it's kind of like, really? I didn't realize that. I realized that I was the first woman of color to chair a publicly held corporation because a group of Black women who worked on Wall Street assembled the morning that I was going public. And one of them informed me that the reason they were there, I was like, why are you all here? Because they were from, NASDAQ, they were from the, American Stock Exchange. And they were like, because you're the first and we're just so proud to be here with you. But it upset me so, it scared me, it intimidated me. It frightened me to the point where I had to run to the ladies' room. And they were like, oh, we're so sorry. I was that nervous about going public. But I had no one I could talk to. There was no one that I could ask in many situations. How do I handle this? What does it mean to, do this? Because when you're the first, the one thing is you're an only child. You're isolated. There is no one else. And for instance, when I was going into business for myself, for my first radio station, out of 5 men that I discussed my desire with, 4 told me I was either not emotionally suited to own and operate a station, or I would never get the funding, or it would mess up my personal life. Sometimes when you're being oppressed, sometimes when you're being disrespected, you don't realize it. Right. Because again, who is going to tell you? If there's no one who's done it before, who's going to say, oh no, don't listen to them. Okay, so I'm thinking that they're giving me some heartfelt advice, looking out for me. One said to me, what you trying to give yourself a nervous breakdown? Why would you?
Wow.
Okay, you created the quiet storm. You're doing this, you should be content. You should be grateful. And I believed them until I got older. I got more mature. And so I'm thankful that women in your demographic, that younger women, you can talk to me, you can talk to others, you can talk to those of us who have gone before you. And we'll tell you, don't listen to that. That's BS. Well, you know what? It's interesting because it wasn't just the men that I went to seeking advice. It was bankers. I mean, I was turned down 32 times as I sought funding. But on more than one occasion, I was asked about whether or not I planned to have other children. More than once, I was asked what would happen if, in fact, my marriage broke up. And I ended up being a divorcee. And then had a very difficult time. Now I'm divorced. It was, he and I are friends to this day. So, it was not a, contentious separation or anything, but I had a difficult time for many years getting the loans transferred into my name alone. They wanted a divorced husband who had disavowed any responsibility or even knowledge of what was going on in my media company, but they didn't want to take his name off the papers.
Isn't that crazy? Because they don't ask men, are you planning to start a family?
Thank you. Right, exactly. Are you planning to start a family? Right, exactly. Yeah, when you grow up with women who don't take no for an answer, I grew up in it, generational, and not even knowing it was generational, but I grew up, with the belief that when someone tells you no, it just means that they did not have the right information to make the right decision. That it's not a rejection, it's not a final, it's not the finale to whatever it is you're proposing. And no just means that the person who told you no has insufficient information to make the right decision.
It's so interesting that we talk about judgment, and we talk about, even from other women sometimes. And I think about when I first started my career in radio, I kind of came out of nowhere. I had a background in marketing, and people used to say things about me like, oh, I know she had to sleep with somebody in order to get in this position. And it's so hard for me to think that the powerful Miss Cathy Hughes, the founder and chairperson of Urban One, that could have happened to you. But the truth is that none of us, I feel like, are immune to that type of thing.
Sometimes we're so cruel to each other for no reason. Women who don't even know us, will have an opinion. And it's strictly an unhealthy, situation to be in, because like I said, I get joy when I see the accomplishments of other women, regardless of their age, regardless of their discipline, regardless of their industry, to see a woman be accomplished. I cannot tell you how I was cheering when I was introduced to the series, Gracie and Frankie, to see Jane Fonda in her 80s.
Yes.
Okay. I was like, oh my goodness. All right. Because as you start to age, you need examples. All right.
Absolutely.
I'm in my 70s now, and to see her in her 80s was like a boost for me. It was like a serious uplift. We all need examples. And sometimes when we're looking for it and we run across individuals who for no reason don't like us or try to hinder us or say unkind things about us, who don't even know us, it's very, very, very painful. It's very hurtful. And so it's hard for me to accept when I have adversaries that I don't even know saying unkind things or trying to impede my progress.
Yeah. And and that's why I want to talk about just how you've grown, because a lot of times I feel like there's two things here. I feel like sometimes we take on too much too quickly, and things can just like kind of spiral out of control. And then I also think on the opposite side of that, sometimes we're not thinking about what our next move is. So what's the balance between making sure that you're always achieving and aspiring to higher, but also not doing too much too fast and having like more of a controlled growth? What do you think about the balance of that?
I think that you have to go with your feeling. Intuition is one of the blessings of being a woman. And I think that when something is right, you really can feel it. I think that applies to business as well as relationships. Women know when something's not right. Okay, you feel it. And men are like, me, you feel it. Okay, you're like, what's going on? Oh, nothing. Why are you accusing me? Because I can feel it. All right, it's the same thing with business. And I think that when we feel that we have to keep up with a trend or we have to rush ahead, that's when we're taking on too much too soon. I think that's when I think you have to. I don't think enough value is placed on a woman's intuition.
Ms. Hughes, can you give us an example of a time that you followed your intuition and it was a great decision?
The Quiet Storm is the best example. I was picketed. I removed jazz from the airways of Howard University radio and replaced it with The Quiet Storm. It was described in the Washington Post as bubblegum music. It was described as putting people to sleep. I was like, well, there are about 500 stations around the country now putting their audience to sleep because they're airing my format. But I knew it was going to work. I knew my morning magazine was going to work. Now it's not just radio, but it was very unique for radio to do it. TV was more into morning magazine formats. But I knew I had to follow my heart to go in business for myself. Because when Howard University would not allow me to license The Quiet Storm, just think, that we were able to track it to 580 some stations that were airing my format free of charge. If each one of them had only been paying $100 a month, Howard University would have been one of the most successful financial institutions in the country. I had to follow my heart and do it for myself. I used to say that if God would just bless me again, I promise I would not allow anyone to throw my baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
Because I felt that that's what had happened with The Quiet Storm. I felt that that's what had happened to the early phase of my career. That was the reason that I went into business for myself, because I wanted to be in charge of my true following my heart, that which I know, my true feelings about what I could get accomplished, and more importantly, what I wanted to do.
And that's why I felt, that's why this organization is so important, All Women in Media, because when you actually go to the events and you get to be in person with all these other women who are powerful,
Yes.
women who are coming up, women who are already super established. I think it is like the best feeling because everybody is so warm and welcoming. We're all there to bond and to support each other. And so things like this, and me even being able to speak to you, this means a lot to me. When they asked me, would you mind doing this interview with Miss Cathy Hughes? I was like, are you sure she's okay with it? Because I would absolutely love to. So I want to thank you for that.
It
So
is truly my pleasure and my honor.